I'll call to order this meeting of the Select Board for November 6, 2023. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we have several public service announcements this evening.
So first up, we have our Veterans Day observance and proclamation. Did you want to say anything before I read the proclamation?
Yes, I just want to remind everybody that Veterans Day this year is Saturday, November 11th. This coming Saturday at 11 o'clock, we'll have an observance at Veterans Park, which is on North Road, and everybody's welcome. It's 11/11 at 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Regina. This is the Town of Chelmsford proclamation for Veterans Day, Saturday, November 11th, 2023. Whereas November 11th was the day on which the armistice ending World War I was signed, and whereas this day has been set aside to commemorate the men and women of the United States who have honorably served our nation in the armed forces, and whereas on Veterans Day 2023, we offer our support to those veterans who suffer illnesses and disabilities resulting from their service, and whereas there are approximately 3,000 veterans living in the town of Chelmsford, now therefore, we, the Chelmsford Select Board, do hereby recognize Saturday, November 11th, 2023 as Veterans Day, and on this day urge the residents of Chelmsford to remember the personal contributions of all veterans in their community and nation, and to demonstrate their respect and gratitude in appropriate ways. Signed the 6th day of November 2023 by the Chelmsford Select Board and the Town Clerk.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll see what
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have an announcement with the Chelmsford Health Department. The food code inspection classes for Chelmsford food establishments will be immediately followed by Narcan training designed for the retail setting. There are 2 sessions available. One is on Tuesday, November 7th at 4:30 p.m., and the other is on Thursday, November 9th at 9:30 a.m. Registration is required by calling the Health Department at 978-250-5241 or emailing Amy at amcInerney@chelmsfordma.gov. McInerney is AMCINERNEY. And next up, the Chelmsford Health Department will be sponsoring a seminar on being prepared for disaster and learning how to keep yourself and others safe during a disaster. That will be held at the Chelmsford Senior Center in room B07 on Wednesday, November 8th at 10:30 a.m. And that is open to anyone, and there's no registration required. And on Tuesday, November 21st at 6 p.m. at the Chelmsford Public Library, the Health Department will be have a presentation on understanding hoarding. And this is an educational presentation for family, friends, and caregivers on how to support a loved one who may struggle with hoarding or overcluttering. Registration is not required, but it's preferred. There is a QR code you can scan on the flyer, or you can email tangel@chelmsfordma.gov to sign up. And the Board of Health Department is also sponsoring a walk-in flu clinic every Monday from 9 to 4 p.m. or every Tuesday evening from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Health Department at 50 Billerica Road. These are vaccines for anyone 19 years of age or older. And there are limited youth vaccines available, but you need to call ahead to confirm availability. There is also a high dose available for those 65 years and older. You can contact the Chelmsford Health Department at 978-250-5241. And next up, we have the Chelmsford Winter Market on the Common. So the Winter Market on the Common will be holding a couple of indoor markets at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts at 1A North Road in Chelmsford. And the first two dates for the indoor markets are Saturday, November 18th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then there will be a holiday market on Saturday, December 16th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And next up, just notice that the Chelmsford residents who are enrolled in Chelmsford Choice Electricity Supply will experience a rate increase in November. The new supplier is Dynegy, and the new pricing will be in effect for 24 months. The Chelmsford Choice prices will be lower than the National Grid Winter Residential Basic Service fixed price that will also take effect on November 1st. You do not have to take any action to remain in the Chelmsford Choice Electricity Supply Program. And the price options are basic at 14.843 cents per kilowatt hour, greener at 16.415 cents per kilowatt hour, and greenest at 17.849 cents per kilowatt hour. The greener electric supply has 40% additional renewable energy, and the greenest supply contains 100% renewable energy. You can get further information at www.masspowerchoice.com/Chelmsford/opt-up. And next up, we have an announcement that the Chelmsford Select Board will hold its public hearing to consider whether or not the town should adopt a classification system for the assessment of property in regard to the collection of real estate taxes. The tax classification hearing will be held on Monday, November 20th at 6 p.m. in room 204 at the town offices on Billerica Road. And from the Vinyl Square Committee, the Vinyl Square Tree Lighting Committee is announcing their 2023 holiday event, which will take place Saturday, December 2nd at 4 p.m. There will be music, snack, activities for your family and friends. And if you would like to assist on December 2nd to join in the decorating fun, you can contact Brian Creamer at brian.f.creamer@gmail.com. And just an additional note that's not on the flyer, the committee is tentatively planning an organizational meeting on November 21st, and if you are interested in that, you can reach out to any member of the committee.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time for public input. Is there anybody that would like to address the board about any topic they have on their mind this evening?
Nobody in the Zoom room.
Okay, apparently there is no one. So we'll go to committee vacancies.
Okay, committee vacancies include the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee has one 3-year term open. The Board of Assessors has one 3-year term open. The Commission on Disabilities has one unexpired 3-year term and one 3-year term available. The Community Action Program Committee has one unexpired 3-year term. The Council on Aging Board vacancies include one unexpired 3-year term and one 3-year term. The Cultural Council has two 3-year terms. The Holiday Decorating Committee has one unexpired 1-year term. The Parade Committee welcomes all applicants for 1-year terms. The Roberts Field Advisory Committee has two unexpired 3-year terms, and the Tree Committee has one unexpired 3-year term available. If you're interested in serving on a town board or committee, you can complete an online application available on the town website, or for more information, contact the town manager's office at 978-250-5202 or email at tmoffice@chelmsfordma.gov.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're up to reports and presentations. The first report this evening is from Peter Spahn, representing the Tree Committee. So, Peter, this is your chance to just say how the wonderful things about the Tree Committee so we can fill that vacancy that you have.
I know. Are we all set here? Yeah.
Right ahead.
Well, thanks, Pat, and thank you to the board for having a chance to come talk to you for 10 minutes about trees. I'd like to start by thanking Christine and Jim Martin, because you don't get up, but Christine is our tree warden, has been very marvelous to work with and very, very important to what we're trying to do on the committee. And I think the way to look at this is Christine has the responsibility for public trees, and the committee helps her as needed. And that partnership, I think, has been very productive for trees. And also, I'd like to acknowledge Jim Martin on the tree committee, who's been doing this, Jim, for a long time. And I still learn an awful lot from you. So thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. And Aaron, thanks for coming to some of our meetings and being our new point of contact. We appreciate that. So I just want to give you a real quick overview of what we've been doing and describe some opportunities and challenges and maybe some directions we might go. Very simple message here. Trees are in trouble everywhere for climate reasons primarily. It's not just our town. That's the bad news. The good news is that means there's a ton of grant money and ton of experts working on ways to help us, and we can kind of partner with those people and get some additional guidance and input. So let me run through this really quickly. So I like to remind everybody why we like trees. It's not just that we like trees or used to like to climb them, but they have huge values that not everybody always thinks about, and there's a reason why I'm presenting it this way. Obviously, the aesthetics, the whole open space thing. I think you've all seen the health studies. Open space is good for people to get away from it all and gather their thoughts. It's a known stress reducer. Habitat and all kinds of critters. Stormwater and flood mitigation are a big tree value. And Christine, I hope we can maybe talk about that and how we might be able to help the stormwater program in town. Heat reduction, carbon goals. So the bottom line really is that climate change and development is increasing the stresses on trees. So that's good background. Next slide, Paul, you're doing this for me? Thank you. So I want to give you a snapshot of what we've been doing the last year and then tell you a little bit about what we'd like to do and then just wrap it up. To me, the biggest accomplishment was the tree planting in Center Common, and the reason I want to flag that is it was a wonderful merging of the tree committee's expertise, primarily Jim, with the DPW people that do the legwork, but it's also a great example, I think, of how our town committees can work closely with you and others to get something done. And you may all recall the select board and Paul came to the tree committee and said, hey, we want to plant trees, let's do a plan, and we worked. And Paul, thank you for meeting with the tree committee several times. I think that was hugely important for the committee to understand what was going to be done and to get things done. The second reason I like to mention the town planting, the common, is second bullet here. DPW staff were out there in the field with Jim, learning all kinds of new things about how to plant trees. So as it turns out, shame on me, I didn't know this, you don't just stick a tree in the ground. It matters how you select a tree, how you plant it, the height, how you reject or accept it from nursery, and how you maintain and water it. And there has been a lot of cases in the town, both private and public trees in the past, where the trees didn't survive. So the big step forward, I think, is that sharing of knowledge between, really, Jim, between you and Christine and her staff to make sure that our public trees and our staff understand all the nuances of having trees that stay for 100 years. All right, I'm going to keep going super quick here. The last year, we've really also focused on strengthening partnerships, and we're now working as requested with the Conservation Commission, the Historic Commission, Garden Club, the library, and I can fill in more, but each of those have a little project and some meetings behind it. There's a tree inventory update, which is somewhat ongoing. Jim's been doing this for years. That is going to help us give you some hard data points on how our trees are doing year over year. A lot of them are not in great shape, but we'll talk about that next time we come before you. A big thing this year is we did a tree canopy analysis that estimated the town is losing about 1% of our tree canopy cover a year for each of the last 5 or 6 years. Now, several people did this analysis. Jim started it using his 50 years of arborist experience, and a couple other people in town jumped in. There are obviously some assumptions you make in all of these models. And so we hope to find a way to make that data stronger so we can use it as a metric when we come before your board, say, hey, here's how we're doing in total tree cover. Because obviously 1% a year times 10 years is a little scary to think about. And then finally, what we worked on, consulted on a bunch of projects as requested. Oh, my favorite, tree value calculation. So we've started calculating the value of a tree. There are U.S. Forest Service methods, Jim can tell us all about this, that take into account all the societal values of trees, all those values we talked about at the beginning. And for example, I was surprised to learn that model values a 24-inch oak tree at $25,000. So my suggestion is, as we move forward with all of our town decisions, we stop and think a little bit that these big old trees, it's not an intangible value like critters and stormwater and carbon, but they actually, you can put a value on that. And then finally, there's some grant application work going. I think Christine's got one pending, and I worked with community development to get a couple more grants, and there's another one coming up, and we'll talk about another time. So I want to go quickly. Challenges and opportunities is how I like to look at these problems. So, challenges I think we talked about. The loss of tree canopy runs counter to the goals that are described in the master plan and the open space and recreation plan. One of the challenges, the responsibility for trees is divided among a lot of players, private, public, et cetera. So you kind of have to, if you want to improve trees, you sort of have to marshal everybody, and that obviously is a challenge. There is a trend in town to cut more trees. Some of that's power reliability. Some of it is new development. Some of it is homeowners don't want trees shading their yard. And, it's not really our job to tell private landowners what to do, but it is a challenge. And then construction damage is very significant on public trees as well as during private developments. So every time you see a backhoe or a bulldozer driving over the roots of a tree underneath the canopy, that tree is at risk. And that's something we don't really think about when we do site plan approvals, but we can. And then climate changes is creating new pests. I think, Paul, you sent something around about the emerald ash borer, and most of the bug people tell us these pests are really because it's getting warmer and or wetter. So that affects certain things. Like, for example, the tree experts say that white pine trees are in trouble long term. So you want to think about that. Maybe you don't want to plant white pine trees. Anyway, there's lots of opportunities, and I'm going to go really quick. Active tree warden, very helpful. I think we can do some work on the site plan approval process at both the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission. We may want to revisit our bylaws and policies. There's some model bylaws that have been put together by bigger brains than mine to help us if we want to go that route. Community outreach and education, partnering with the Mass DCR Regional Forester. They're willing to come in and talk to us and maybe look at some of our lands. And finally, the town's about to undertake the 5-year update of the open space and rec plan, and there's another chance to take a swing at trees. So super quick, I don't want to talk about this slide per se, but I give this a little bit of thought, and I realize there's all these different entities and probably more that can cause a tree to live or die. And that will help us as we move forward and maybe come up with some stronger suggestions at our next meeting. So quickly, our plans, no new ground here really, but the items on the left available with current resources, that's code for what we think the 4 members of the committee can do. The longer term goals is code for what may require some outside consulting help. Just like your idea with the strategic plan development, we can certainly develop a urban forestry plan is the buzzword being used. We could create that among the committee members, except that's a lot of effort and a lot of time, and some towns have been hiring with grant money outside experts to help us with these different plans. So I think that's really all I wanted to share with you. I hope we can come back another time and maybe talk to you with some more concrete ideas and recommendations. And Christine, is there anything you would like to add to that? I know I kind of glossed over your part.
Thank you. I think that's a great summary. So there was an update in the grant. There was a recent grant that we submitted to DCR. We posted $6,000, but it's actually $7,000. Hoping to use that to plant trees or or also seek additional services through arborists. So as we get a lot of requests to review trees in parks and in town-owned right-of-way, and often, we can go out there, and if it's clearly dead or seems to be in some type of public safety or disrepair, we can take it down. There are also trees, though, that just are diseased, or we're not sure if they need further review. So we do consult with the arborist, so that some of the funds could go towards that process. Just last year, I think we had 93 requests come in from residents. So it's a pretty large effort amongst DPW. Is that we get all those requests, we have to go out, look at the tree first, see if it's within the right of way. And I do, just to speak, I think it is important to, like, this picture really shows the collaboration, and this is our DPW highway department, and this is where they learned how to plant a tree. I learned a lot too. So we want to continue that. And so I think we have a core group in highway that now can go plant trees, understands the process, so we'll probably teach it, or extend that knowledge to other members of DPW, and also looking to maybe get more training this winter is a good opportunity. One thing we didn't touch on, I think it's also invasive species management. That's becoming a huge threat to our healthy trees, and so that's something also that I think on the grant side, but also maybe just on the training. Like knotweed is an example, where Japanese knotweed is very invasive, and if you cut it, you're actually harming it. And we go out and we cut the side of the road, so it's something that I was just thinking that I should probably have our staff be educated, so maybe we can better address some of these locations. But I think that's all I have. I don't know, Jim, if you have anything else to add, or thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Peter or Christine about trees?
Are you planning on giving this summary briefing to the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission?
Maybe with less words on the page, a little bit wordy. No current plans, we could.
I just thought you might want to consider it, especially since some of what you're talking about trying to position for in the future is related to the work that both of that board and that commission do.
Right. I think that's a great idea. One of the things we did this year is sit down with our conservation agent, David Coons, and talk about ways to help each other. And that's easy for me because I sit on the Conservation Commission, so I'm the guy that bugs everybody by always asking about trees. But yeah, good idea. I can certainly approach the planning board with some version of this.
It's your call, just a thought.
Yeah. Good idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for the report.
you.
And thanks for the support, everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay, next up is Lauren Cochran, our Executive Director of the CCA.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. I have more than 5 slides. I apologize, but you did get to see them earlier, I think. So this is a quick summary, and I can answer any questions. There's a few things I'll talk about that weren't on the slides. So basically, when I was asked to do this presentation, I was asked to make sure I had read the strategic plan that Paul had given me when I first got hired. So I read it again, and basically, people want the Center for the Arts to be a very energized, active building, and that was clear. They also want more theater in it. This was all in the strategic plan from 2019. They want more teens and family series, more variety with emphasis on theater. I think there's a lot of spoken word things because it was actually in the strategic plan. And also to try to make it as financially self-sustainable as possible. And it was clear from the strategic plan that it was valued by the community. So that's a good thing. The programs that were started under Lexi and maybe Susan, trivia has been sort of actively growing. We have open mic nights. Lexi had launched the Playground, which is a theater group, and they've had several performances to date. And there was an alumni talent show last year that was sold out, and her jazz brunch had sold out. So these were things that Lexi had started. Staffing, there was just Dan Adamski, who was there from 2021. He was actually there transitionally sort of by himself between March and I sort of got hired at the end of April. I was still teaching, and I would say I could dedicate it fully in June, but I was working from the end of April to June, catching up to speed, and I feel like I'm finally up to speed now. It's been about 5 months, so we've been pretty busy there. So we have Dan Adamski as the full-time director, and then I'm technically only supposed to be part-time. I don't know if you're aware of that because of pension and things like that in the school system, so, but I tend to work more than that, as Paul knows. We did get to hire a part-time Patrick Snow, sort of to help with marketing, because what we did was we brought the website in-house. Prior to my executive directorship, the website was being handled from a person in Tennessee at $2,800 a month. So Lexi was sort of in the process of stopping that, and then we brought it in-house. So now Dan and Pat and I sort of do the website by ourselves, which is because the website is so constantly changing that you need to be there constantly because new things will happen and come up. And if you want to keep an active website, you really can't like email someone, wait till they get to it. So the good news is we've done that. We also have concessions manager now. I mean, he only gets paid when clients hire him. Nate Gleason has been there, so if you ever pop over there, you'll see Nate. And he kind of handles the liquor in the bar, and often private rentals will request him, and they'll pay him $50, and then he gets tips. So that's happening over there. I do have a co-op from Neshoba that is there now, and occasionally we have a few students from Chelmsford High School. We also have some volunteers. We have about 3 consistent volunteers, which is great. And Linda Subiak has been tip certified already. We have a new person that we got as a result of the senior program, and we have 2 from the senior program for the tax write-off. So they're doing a great job, and they come and help out when needed. So we'll be constantly looking for volunteers. The changes since, the liquor license. These are all the people that I said that are tip certified now because we don't want to get caught out because we've all taken the training, which is terrific. And we just had a giant event there on Saturday with over 225 people. So it was very busy. I actually made $100 in tips, but we put them into petty cash because I cannot take tips. It was the first time I was ever a bartender. It was pretty exciting. And Dan is not allowed either. So now we have some petty cash that strictly came from this big event. It was a big event the other night, so. All right, so some financial changes since May 23rd. We did change the cleaning company. The cleaning company was $1,800 a month, and I didn't think they were doing a great job. So when I found out that the town was actually looking as well at new cleaning companies, we did go with Advanced Maintenance Solution, and we did save quite a bit there. So they're about $810 a month now. I don't know how they really do it, but when we get supplies, it can run around $1,100 a month. The outside signage, we've changed companies. They were paying $140 a sign. We found a company that does it for $90 a sign, so that's a little bit of savings there. And we're trying to make reusable signs, so you'll see sort of trivia night, but you won't see specific dates on them because we want to reuse the signs because it's silly to keep doing that. So we've saved some funds there as well. So this is what we've done with the marketing, and we use Wix. We also have done a weekly newsletter. Hopefully you all subscribe to it. We had a volunteer do that for the longest time, but now she's expecting a child. So Pat Snow has learned how to do the newsletter, and he and I proof it. So what you're seeing now is coming directly out of us again. I'm sure you know that I use Facebook regularly. Sometimes I think people are really tired of it, but it's one of the ways we can market our events the best. Instagram and TikTok, we have a co-op student working on this. She's starting to make little videos to put out there on different things. We now do have a good flyer distribution list. We found out there's 30 different places that accept flyers, and every Tuesday we are distributing flyers around town, in which you think flyers wouldn't work, but we did a survey, and some people at trivia said they saw it on a flyer, and somebody at game night said they saw it on a flyer at the Westford Library. So go and behold, flyers still work, so people like them. And we talked about the newsletter, and I'll often go on post on Patch and Macaroni Kids as well. I do send press releases out, and I'm starting to write the press releases, but we were just trying to do a database cleanup today, and it's hard to find like who to send the press releases to, believe it or not. Newspapers have changed a lot, so there are not as many out there, but we're investigating that. So those were all the marketing changes we made. There's been an awful lot of events. There was, as you know, I was not really happy. I don't like taking a loss on everything. I like breaking even. and making a profit, small profit. The drag show, not the drag show was profitable. The Sharon, Lois, and Bram was the first thing. That was the end of April, and I tried to do a Hail Mary by putting a kid in an elephant costume to up the ticket sales, but unfortunately, that was sort of before my time. That was booked a few years ago, so they had a rider and everything. Most of the groups I want to bring in, I'm offering to do like a 60-40 split, or even a 70-30 or 80-20 split. So if we have bands in, we'll say, okay, well, you can have 70 to 80% of the profits, because if we get 20%, then we're guaranteed not to lose. Where if you hire somebody and say, okay, I'll give you $2,600, you have no guarantee if you're going to make any money off of that, right? Because you have to get the audience. So I'm into this kind of split situation. The drag show was very successful. We did that in conjunction with Jen Melanson. That was sold out. The 10-Minute Blake Festival had excellent attendance. We made a profit on that one. The comedy show also made a profit. That was very successful. The trivia nights average around, the first night we had 65 people. I was very excited. And now it's been going like 20 or 30. But we're still trying to have consistency. We also do a trivia night in conjunction with the library on Thursday nights. The one we had 65 people were Friday nights. We're trying to develop a consistent time and crowd for trivia nights. And the comedy show, as I said, we also made a profit of $16.70. Okay, where am I in this one? Oh, in addition to that, we had a couple of dance nights. The swing dance night was pretty successful. We had a live band. We had about 50 people there, so it made a small profit. The Latin dance night wasn't as well attended. Could have been not as much publicity, but again, it was a small profit and everyone had a really good time, and it was amazing to see people out there dancing on the floor. So they were both profitable. We also took the ticketing in-house. We used to use Haps Now. Haps Now would take $1.50 or $2 a ticket. Now we just do it via Square, and Square takes 3% of all the sales. So the ticketing is set up by Dan, so if you go online to purchase a ticket, it goes directly to Square. So we don't have a third-party resource for tickets anymore, and it works out really well, and it's easy. And it saved money. So again, we have open mic nights regularly. This one Thursday night, they're really fun, usually about 20 to 30 people. It's free, you come in, people sit, and it's amazing the talent that comes in. And we're trying to establish sort of a regularly monthly routine on the second Thursday of every month. The game night had about 20 in attendance, and that was brand new, so we're hoping to up that. That was fun. I was not able to be there, but Dan and Pat were there, and they said it was fun. The sober karaoke, in conjunction with the Board of Health, has been successful, 30 to 40 people. And they had a 6-week meditation series. It started off with about 30 people, and then it sort of winnowed down to 10. And that was a free service, but people seemed to enjoy it, and that was on Wednesday afternoons. The largest thing we had was we had 2 events at the same time. And at first, Dan was a little nervous about doing it because he said, oh, we're going to have a masquerade ball and sober karaoke. But we did it. We had all hands on deck. We had over 200 people upstairs at the masquerade ball. We had about 30 to 40 people downstairs in the cabaret. We made sure we shut the doors off. Only once did 2 people come to sober karaoke and asked to buy tequila, and I sent them on their way upstairs. So that was the only tricky part about that. But it was very successful, both events. And they, as you know, the masquerade ball was for Junie's Place, and they raised over $8,000 that night for Junie's Place, which is the playground. So I know that Kristen Dillon is talking about doing an annual fundraiser at the CCA because it was really successful. As far as the Fall Festival, we didn't have as much attendance, I guess, as normally we do. I guess the Common didn't have as much attendance, but we did have a very nice display. We had brought in a photography exhibit, and they were very pretty. People just came in, and we hung up their work, and it was very lovely. So we did that. As was said earlier tonight, we are bringing in 2 of the farmers markets on November 18th and December 16th to have a place for them to go inside, which is sort of exciting. Since I've been around, we've increased the rentals. We've had a couple of mercy meals. This Saturday we had one that was a celebration of life with over 225 people, which is what we had all hands on deck. It was quite crowded. There was a rock tribute that was also equally crowded. It was a life celebration, but there was 5 rock bands in there. They were there all day. Different bands were playing. I guess it was a member of their band had passed away, so they were celebrating his life. There was a huge Indian celebration. We've had several baby showers, birthday parties, and recitals. And Savoyard Light Opera Company is in there having Adam's Family rehearsals on Sunday nights. And as you know, when I first got hired, this Business Networking Inc. called me, and they are there every Wednesday morning at 6:30 to 9 for their meetings. And now they've just moved upstairs in the auditorium because they've had more people join that. And they are going to do a couple of trees. They're going to donate a couple of trees to the festival, which is great. So this is what we've brought in to date. It's actually 3,000 more now since Saturday night in concessions, so that's actually, the numbers are a little bit, tiny bit off, because I did this on before Friday. So are we profitable? No, but are we trying? Yes. It doesn't include salaries, but this is what we're bringing in. Classes are not as popular as I would like them. I don't know why. I think we're competing a lot with, the library has craft classes, different organizations do, the senior center. So they're not, we're trying to find what classes. The paint by night classes do well, but the craft classes didn't do as well, and we're trying to change up to see. The acting class had 11 people, the guitar class had it, so I think if we sort of go towards theater and perhaps music more and, specific arts, we'll be all right. These are the resident groups, as you will. I'm not sure if you are aware that all these people are in there once a week. We have the community band is in there once a week. We also house their equipment. We have the Chelmsford Art Society. They were gracious enough to, we worked with them on the 4th of July. They had their wonderful art exhibit in there. That was huge. The Chelmsford Rotary's in there. The Garden Club did a little planting in the back for us. There's one Girl Scout troop that's in there, and they planted mums, and they painted the murals for us for the Fall Festival. The Cultural Council has meetings. There's the CCA Advisory Board. We also have 2 knitting groups, and we just started a new writing group on Thursday mornings. So as I said earlier, these were the ones that seemed to be doing well. The acting class and the guitar class did well, and the Joy of Paint. Textile arts has been all right. We're trying to, nobody signed up for the Kijang classes, maybe 2 people. There's a new yoga studio opening up, and I think, as I said, we're competing with even, fitness centers for yoga. So we're trying to find which classes will work best at the Center for the Arts right now. And I said we have a new writing group, and I'm hoping that will expand and actually have people write plays for us to perform, which is great. Newcomers Day, we've had 2. The first one we had 6 people. They were very nice. Thank you, Pat, for attending both of them. The second one, there was only a couple of people. So we decided to try to do that once every 2 months instead, and publicize it a little more instead of once a month, perhaps. And maybe get the word out more, So we have to figure out how we can do that, is get the people out, because it's more like a welcome. This is the Center for the Arts. This is the town. We gave them a nice little booklet with maps and all sorts of information, and even a nice little mug. So it was a very nice night for the few people that came, but we would really like to get more people in the building. We have a student advisory board. They've been very inconsistent. The kids are in the middle of doing a big production of Mamma Mia. Teen trivia, we had 3. There's usually about 20 students. We offered it to the clubs, and then Friday we had to cancel for the first time because the 2 club advisors told me that nobody had signed up. So I thought if I brought it into the high school and offered it as a fundraising opportunity for them, I would have thought it would have brought the clubs in. So we'll try one more time, but we're trying to get the teens in the building, and they're reticent. And the person that I was talking to said, yeah, there's stuff going on. The teens are a little bit, they're still getting out of a pandemic, I guess. So the movie nights, very low attendance, so that's not something we're going to really pursue, I don't think. I mean, maybe in the summer, but again, it sort of took a lot of staff time for it, and I don't think we had that success. So we have some successes and some not successes. We did try to do a teenage singing group. We could only get 3 at a rehearsal, so unfortunately, that didn't work out. So those are the sad things that didn't work out. But those were the ones we did with the Board of Health. We also worked with trivia as the library, and we already had said that, so you can continue on that one. As far as the support for the CCA, the partners disbanded, but we now have the Friends of the CCA that was started under Lexi, and Sharice Lattimore is the chair, and they're going to be helping with the Barbie holiday party fundraiser, and their job, they now are a 501(c). I think I said C3, sorry, 501(c), so they can be the fundraising arm just like the Friends of the Library, which is great. So we're already talking about different ideas to help raise funds for the CCA. And that's it. And I already talked about those things. So the exciting thing is we have several things coming up. We have the Alumni Talent Show. It's the second one. We have quite a good lineup, so please get your tickets. It's the Friday after Thanksgiving, and those are all the people that will be performing. Daisy Zeus's Endowment for the Arts is having a Barbie holiday party on December 2nd, and that's very exciting. So if you have any little ones who likes Barbie, the swag bags are great. Everybody's going to get a Barbie. It's pretty exciting. So tickets are on sale now for that. And then, as you may have heard, we're having a mini festival of trees, and we opened it up to families. So I know the select board's all going to sit there and get a tree and decorate it. I can't wait to see your tree that you're getting for us. But right now we have about 20 trees donated, and then they will be raffled off by the friends, and some will be a silent auction. And the most exciting thing that's coming up is this new world musical. It's a world premiere holiday sing-along musical, 5 or 6 original songs. We have a cast of 28. We've been rehearsing. We have a lot of 5th graders. We have 17 students who are 5th graders. We have a couple of high school kids, and we have even Jeff Doherty as Santa Claus, if you know Jeff Doherty, and Danny as Krampus. So it's pretty exciting to premiere this new musical, and it's a lot of fun, and rehearsals have been going really well. So that's hopefully going to be a big sellout, and tickets have been starting to sell for that one. Now, the new news that may be coming in, because we're trying to get more theater into the building, through Pat Snow, there's a group in Lowell that is sort of losing their home, and they're called Dramatically Incorrect. And I've met with them, and we'll be meeting with them again, and they would like to, they're actually looking, they're a little displaced, so they're looking for a permanent home to maybe do 4 plays a year. So we're meeting with them again tomorrow. I will make sure that, like, they pay for their royalties, and, you know, we're going to try to work out, and there's other things that we will work out before we totally bring them on board. The first play they're planning on doing is Doubt, and then the musical Heathers. So those will probably be the 2 things that will test them to see how the relationship would start working with them. And we're still negotiating whether it'll be a rental or a cut of the door. So that's what we're going to try to see, what's beneficial. But it also brings in actors to the CCA, and my hopes is that since the town did want more theater's kind of my background, and we want to sort of work towards that. They also do a summer youth program, which is great because we did make a quick attempt at the end of April, but we had already missed the boat. So I'm hoping working with this group, we'll get a nice summer theater program for kids up there. And they do give some scholarship to kids, and their prices were very low because if you compare, like, Westford's theater program is like $1,800 for the summer or something, and they only charge $400. So we're going to try to find, but, you know, it's like a really good camp for 6 weeks for students to come to and do plays. So that's what I'm hoping we're going to be bringing into the CCA in the next month or so. I'm also looking at, obviously, some musical groups. Carolyn Anger is a classical pianist that's going to be coming in more than likely in April. We're going to do a door split with her. There is a Liberace review. Next Friday, I was invited to the Parish Center just to hear some other musicians because I do want to still bring back music into the building as well as theater. So there are a few things that I'll be looking at. There's a Berkeley women's group called She Grooves that I'm hoping to get in here as well. I've talked to them a few times. You'd be amazed how many emails we get from managers for music. It's constant. You know, they find all the art centers, and we get all sorts of emails constantly saying, please listen to this group. But I think it's important to find the right group. But as long as I don't have to do a rider and pay them $2,500 and can work a deal with them, a lot of people seem to be amenable to door splits, which I think is more beneficial for the CCA. And that's it. And the only other thing I left out was grants. We did have a grant they did shift it, so I'm going through training in January. I think it's a $10,000 or $15,000 grant for public art, so I'll be going through the training for that, and I'll be applying for a couple of other grants with the Mass Cultural Center. We did spend grant money. We had to use it by September 12th, so we bought an ice machine, which is great because we don't have to lug ice now, and we brought some nice furniture in there, so if you get into the cabaret, there's some comfortable seating areas. And the other thing that eventually I would like to do is do over the auditorium to make it more theatrically pleasing. It's very beige right now. It's just a big beige room, and I want to make it more beautiful. I want people to walk into that place and want to rent it because of its beauty. It's a beautiful space now, but I want to make it more beautiful. So hopefully I have a lot of plans for that. So any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
What do you do in your
comments?
spare time?
George? Exactly. That's what my husband says. Oh. No questions?
First of all, this is great, and thank you for all that you've done in a very short amount of time. Chelmsford Telemedia, we seem to have lost the mic sound in the room.
I thought the mic sound, I know, I thought it went out too. Test. Oh, now it's back, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
now it's
Okay,
back.
that's all right. But you heard me, right?
We heard
Yeah.
you, but they might not have behind you.
Oh, I apologize.
It's not your fault. On the slide where you said you've brought in 40K,
Yes, that's mostly concessions, believe it or not. And when I by
Right.
concessions, Virginia, I mean alcohol.
Understand. But, so with whatever expenses are with that don't include the building and the salaries,
Right.
are you still not profitable? Or if you just look at that?
Well, this is only half a year.
Right.
So if you look at that, it's like it would pay, that would have paid for my salary because I can only make a certain salary, or would have paid for Pat Snow's. Dan, of course, is a 37 and a half hour week employee. So we're not yet profitable, but we could very well be. But I would say it will probably take a year and a half or 2 years because the rentals are increasing and our rental prices are very low right now.
Let me ask it a different way. So what you're taking in on the events
Mhm.
is generally covering the expense of the event and then some, except for the salaries in the building itself.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Every
Okay.
event we're having is breaking even or making a small profit. We're not taking a loss at
That's
all.
great.
Yeah, because I refuse to take a loss in events. Otherwise, why would I do it? That's why that Sharon Lois Bram thing killed me.
Yeah.
Because I was. If you did the math, you couldn't even charge the ticket prices to make what they were charging for their rider and their services. So I don't know why that was even thought of.
And then so you've read the strategic plan, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
How is what you're doing, how does that align with that? Or is there anything in that plan that you think, maybe we need to do a different direction than what the plan said?
I think the way you would get money in is to do more theater in that building. I know we have the Performing Arts Center, but that is they do rent it out, but it's that's for the kids, right? So because we're a smaller venue, I mean it should be an art center, but if we make it into Santee and Perch, for example, it was written locally, so we're not paying any royalties for it. And the 10-minute plays were all written by local playwrights, so you didn't have to pay any royalties for it.
Yeah.
When you do like popular shows like Mamma Mia, you have to pay like $15,000 in royalties, so you're losing. I mean, it's all based on size of the auditorium. So the strategic plan said to bring more people in. So it's how do we get more people into the building? And the things that seem to have worked the most are some of the larger rentals, and then the theater program seemed to be working. The trivia and the open mic, they're sort of nice to haves, I think, right now. But we still make a little profit on them. But
Great.
I don't know if that answered your question.
It did, thank you.
Did it? Thanks. Thank you.
I'll just say that we're entering into the budget season, as the board knows.
Can we get the mics back on?
Anyway, we're entering into the budget season, as the board's aware. I've asked, and Lauren has submitted a operating budget for fiscal year 25, which would start on July 1st. So I think at the end of the day, and as she said, at least in the short run, the town's going to need to fund the operations. So we are working on that. She has some items that she mentioned that are more one-time capital expenses, like the renovations she wants to do and the hall, as well as some sound equipment and so forth. But I think as we've been discussing, it will be it will be part of the town's operations, much like the library is in the senior center and so forth. There'll be a line item under community for CCA. So that's how we'll do it. And it'll be broken up like any other budget for personnel and some expenses. And then, as she said, some of the proceeds that she'll be receiving from their operations will offset some other expenses of theirs. So I guess it'll be like a hybrid model, I guess the best way to describe it.
Until it potentially breaks even.
Sounds
like there's
hopefully.
potential.
Well,
for
it is, and we, my husband's an architect, and I said, that little kitchen could be slightly expanded, but it's whether or not the historic commission or whoever will say, listen, you want, just because there's an 1874 building or 1894, you still need to make updates to it. When you walk, the cabaret people walk in now and they say, whoa, this is a great space. The cabaret actually had more rentals than the auditorium, which is fascinating, right? Because people love it. It's such a great little space. They go in there. And so hopefully, as Paul just said, there'll be one. I'm applying for a grant because now the Massachusetts Cultural Society, the MCC, they actually have a grant for building renovations now, and it just came out. So with Sharice Lattimore, I'm hoping we'll apply for it. And fingers crossed, maybe we'll get a little something that would help with the auditorium renovation. And it does need a paint job now, and some of the shutters have fallen. So the exterior needs a little loving care as well right now.
And then obviously it'll take time for the Friends group to ramp up as well. So
Right.
But
Right. If we do 2 or 3 fundraisers a year, that would be huge. So that's what we're hoping.
Have you thought about doing summer camps?
That's what we
for
just
all the
said.
parents out there?
Well,
Yeah,
we did. The Dramatically Incorrect group will bring a summer program in, and I really want to work with them because, that's where you do make a lot of money. Westford's camp, The
Yeah.
kids pay an awful lot of money over there to go to that
And
camp.
there's not enough out there. Every parent I know is always looking for.
Right,
summer
exactly. I was just a little too late to try to get started because I just got started in the end of April, and I think that's something we have to talk about in January and February. And the other thing I'm going to add is once a month, one act plays. Once a month, we're going to do one act play. And it's going to be a cocktail and a comedy or a drink and a drama. So I'm hoping to have this really sort of exciting local playwrights. And we'll do the 10-minute play festival again. So we got lots of ideas.
So Lauren, I think you've done an excellent job. I mean, it's so busy there now, and so many people are realizing, coming in for something and realizing what's there. And it's also, and I give you credit for realizing that not everything you try is going to work. And you just have to understand that and move on from it. So good job. And
Thanks. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I hope to see you at all of the events,
Thank you.
especially the musical, because I know the writer personally. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up on our agenda is a discussion about the topics for our next meeting, November 20th, when our town's legislative delegation will be here. Anybody have any thoughts they would like to bring up for our next meeting so we can alert them ahead of time what questions we might have? Go ahead.
I was just looking at our list from May as well, and we had a lot of things on it, and that's okay. I'm wondering if we want to prioritize a little bit and say, okay, well, these are the really top 3 places we want you to focus on, and then here's some other stuff that we don't want to take our eye off the ball, but the most important things for us are, and to me, it goes back to the infrastructure, whether it's Chapter 70, Chapter 90, infrastructure money to support all these housing mandates, with MBTA zoning or the refugees or the homeless. And then the utilities infrastructure, and the center and the other topics that we talked about. So I don't know. To me, I think there's an emphasis that we might want to consider placing on the infrastructure and state aid for infrastructure.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I was thinking of looking at that list, but I didn't get to it today. But, there are some topics, and, including the double polls issue that we've had. If they could come up with some way to give us some leverage over National Grid and the utilities, since they took away what we thought we had.
So if you want me to read this, Pat, from the last time with the utility, it was to advance the funding of underground utility projects, facilitate better cooperation with the utility, including National Grid, on clearing easements on the town property and near conservation land. And then I agree with you to add the double poles or whatever. Give us some ability to have leverage on the utilities.
Right, other than just refusing a petition which hurts our, residents.
We did bring that up in the spring.
Can we
Did
close
bring
the-
that up
can-
with them in May?
Chelmsford Telemedia, can you check the mics in the room, please? Can't hear you guys.
We did bring up the polls thing in May, though, didn't we?
No, I don't-
Briefly?
I don't think we did.
Not in May. It
Because-
wasn't, we didn't bring it up in May. I have the minutes
Or
and
maybe
the
it was just
list,
the
and
underground utility.
it was the
Underground.
underground and,
Yeah.
But not the polls.
Right,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then, I'd like to kind of keep, first of all, we could ask them if there's any progress they've made that we haven't heard. Sometimes they do keep us updated going, as things happen, but I'm sure there's other things that maybe they haven't. And, ask them for an update on those. I mean, some of the environmental things that we talked about, too, I would like to kind of keep an eye on those, like the enhanced bottle bill and, how that's going. I don't know whatever happened with that. Did you hear
Haven't heard
anything?
anything, but,
Okay.
But I know Representative Elliott's been trying to follow the issues of the sidewalks off of Tingsboro Road from Vinyl Square and so forth. So I imagine they'll come in with some updates or some of their interests. And obviously we know with Representative Arciero chairing the Housing Committee, he may have some insights in terms of the MBTA zoning and the housing issues. So
And I think too, Pat, related to both environmental and infrastructure would be that whole topic around PFAS, right? And if if the state's making the requirements more stringent, one, how, is there support for our water infrastructure to give us safer drinking water? Because, well,
I know, once we start talking
and
about.
I know that's not a town topic, the water departments are not in the town budget, but I think it's a real town issue.
Oh, yeah, right. I mean, yeah, in final analysis, yeah, we want the water that people are drinking in town to be safe, for sure. No matter who produces that water. So anything else anybody wanted to put on the list?
Paul, do you have any other thoughts?
No, and I imagine, like I said, I think we'll hear from them. We know Representative Elliott was trying to address the commercial truck issues and so forth, so.
Right, and some of that stuff is like a status update.
Yeah.
But
So I get some status
like, where do
reports,
we
'cause-
want them to take action?
Because when they're going to recess the first semester, basically November 15th, which will be prior to their meeting with us, and then they're going to reconvene in January, and then they're going to end in July, because that'll be the end of the legislative year formally, which also they'll be heading into their election year, which a year from now. So, like I said, they must have a pretty ambitious agenda as they go into those last 7 months.
Okay, so, now were you going to maybe send them a?
Yeah, I emailed them a notice of the meeting to, it was about a week or 10 days ago. And I believe I've heard from Representative Elliott that he'll be attending, and I'll follow up with them, the others. I know Congresswoman Trahan is not going to be able to make the meeting. I did include her in the invite, but I haven't heard from Senator Barrett's office or the others, so I'll follow back.
Okay, so we'll have at least one then, but hopefully
Yeah.
more than that, hopefully 3 or 4 anyway.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion on that topic? If not, we will move on to town meeting action items.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Sort of following up on 2 of the major items from fall town meeting. The first one is moving forward with the strategic plan, and that would commence with the formation of appointment of a strategic plan steering committee. To sort of begin the discussion, I've included in this memo who I would think would be the following stakeholders or members of the on that committee, and this sort of corresponds to the presentations and discussions going into town meeting. Yeah, I would think that we would send invites out to Select Board, School Committee, Planning Board, Conservation Commission, Age-Friendly, Chelmsford Committee, Housing Advisory Board, Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, and then two residents to be appointed by the Select Board. And then that would, that's going to give you a good-sized committee. And so I think that's, sort of the way, the way to get started. And then as I noted, that if, let's say one of these groups passes or says no, then I would just increase the number of town residents, to be appointed by the Select Board to the committee, so that we do achieve the 9-person committee.
And you would
So-
expect this would be a monthly, they'd meet monthly? Or?
Oh, I would think
They would decide.
They would decide. It may be more intense than monthly as you're sort of doing like the RFP and so forth, and then it may relax depending upon time of year and so forth. But I would think you're probably looking at, on average, probably once a month meeting.
Okay.
And then myself and the community development director, I think, would serve as professional staff support for the committee. And my thought would be to have give these boards and committees time to meet and make these suggestions, and then hopefully 4 weeks from tonight, when you meet on December 4th, that the committee could be appointed, assembled, and then really hit the ground running after the first of the year, calendar year.
So, Paul, this list is a little bit different than what we had vetted and what was presented at town meeting.
Yeah.
In that we didn't have the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, and I think that at one point we consciously took them off because we were focusing on boards and committees and commissions that had major planning documents. And when we thought that, DEIC and clean energy and folks like that would be in the category of bringing them in as needed to participate in the input sessions and the process. So I just wanted to ask kind of what was your thinking about expanding it like that?
Well, what I did
Because
is,
they weren't.
what I did is I displaced myself and put on the clean energy and sustainability, and I think,
Oh, but see, I have an issue with you displacing yourself. That's another comment that I have, in that I don't think that you, or maybe even you and the community development director, are support staff. I mean, that was another whole conversation that went on when this was being vetted, and we were asked, will this include the town, a representative or the town staff as part of the steering committee, so that it's not a board or a commission or an elected or an appointed product. And the answer to that we said unequivocally was yes. So I think that, we have other committees in town where the town employees are listed as members of that committee, and I think you have to be a member of the committee. You have to be a voting member of the committee. Like, this is going to be executed eventually by you and your staff, not by rotating volunteers. And so, I mean, they'll be part of it, but like, the belly button for execution is going to be you. So I have a real problem with kind of changing that out too, and saying you're not really a member of the committee, you're support staff.
let me respond to this.
Okay.
Going back to the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, I think the message I heard very clear at town meeting with the vote on the opt-in code was the value that the town places on addressing climate change, clean energy, and so forth. And it just seems to me that clean energy is having such a tremendous scope on everything, whether it's building design, fleets, vehicles, issues of, sustainability and stormwater, all, the trees and all that stuff. And so therefore, when I looked at it, I struggled with it, and I said, I don't want to have a committee of 11, because I think that's just a bit unwieldy. And so therefore, I sort of plugged in clean energy and sustainability and unplugged myself as a formal voting member of the committee. And part of the reason for, and I struggle with this, and I've been conscious of this for 17 years. This is a strategic planning of the community, of the community. And, I try to do my best to sort of walk that tightrope of planning the community and versus serving the community's direction. And so that's why I sort of said, what, maybe myself and the planner, meaning the community development director, should be the support and very immersed in it, just like the planner was immersed in the master plan development, and just like the conservation agent is going to be immersed in the open space and recreation plan. But, I've always struggled with the fact that, does the manager set policy for the community? And I think the answer to me is no. And that's why, again, if the board, and this is why I offered this to the board, if you decide you want to put myself on the committee, I'll serve, and I'll vote, and I'll do what I have. I also, want to keep non-board members on the committee, which is why I put the 2 residents. So that's what I struggle with, because we could make it an 11-person committee. That's another way of doing it. But the problem is, you get to 9 to 11, it gets a bit unwieldy.
We can make it a 10-person committee and have you as a member of the committee, and you can bring in Evan or whoever else you want as support regularly or ad hoc. And I know that's an even number, but I have an issue with you not being a full-fledged member of the committee. I think that goes against what we told people when we were bringing it forward to town meeting in response to their questions. And I don't necessarily think this is you setting policy, Paul. I think this is you being an active member of the strategic plan and not saying this was something that was handed to me. I think you need to weigh in along with all these other boards and committees, because you have a stake in this with the execution part. You're going to have to execute it, and like you can't have these guys telling we're gonna do this, and then it's not supportable by your staff or the budget or whatever. I think you have to participate in that.
Again, it's whatever the board prefers, but
So
I don't think in my.
I'll stop talking
But I'll
'cause
say
I'm a
this, I don't think in my,
mean
I don't think in my 17 years that I ever say this was put upon me by an appointed or an elected board. And I would never do that. I mean, my feeling is I respect the elected and appointed officials of the town, and I will dig in, lean in, whatever the right word you want to use, to fulfill whatever comes out of this. And I'll leave it to the board. If you want to put me on the committee, I'll gladly do it. If you don't want to put me on the committee, I'm not going to be offended. I just offer you my perspective on it. I'm fine either way. So it's whatever you prefer.
Okay, well, I mean, I'll give my 2 cents, and then we'll ask the other two over here. I mean, I feel like it is important that we have a representative from clean energy and sustainability. I think
fine.
that
That's
is very
fine.
critical where this world is going and everything else.
No, I agree with the rationale.
As far as Paul being on the committee, I mean, yeah, he will be responsible for implementing a lot of it, but so will other major departments. Why not DPW director then, or something like that. So I understand what Paul's saying, and I mean, Paul's not a member of this board, but we always ask his input on every item that comes up. So I think he'd be there for that, obviously. So I'm okay with him participating the way he described and bringing his other staff to give their inputs based on their expertise. So, Aaron, George, either of you have any thoughts on those?
Well, I kind of agree with, I definitely agree with what Virginia said about them being on a committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree also. I understand what you're saying, Paul, in the policy making versus kind of implementation. But as the town manager, I kind of feel like you have a wonderful big umbrella understanding of how a lot of different things in town work, whereas some of these people from some of these committees have more of an understanding about one thing and less about that bigger umbrella. So I think that your role on that board would be really important from an implementation standpoint, to Virginia's point. So I kind of, yeah, I mean, I think that you need to be super involved either way, but I kind of do feel like maybe you should be a full-fledged
I mean,
member.
and
I don't know if it matters. I
And
mean, yeah.
to Virginia's point about making it a 10-person committee, I'm okay with that. I don't think
Yeah.
there's going to be any votes that are going to be 5-5, quite
Yeah.
frankly. I don't think there's going to be many votes, quite frankly. It's going to be
Right, it's,
Yeah.
people working towards a goal.
I agree with you on that.
So, I mean,
So I'll just add town manager to the list, that's all.
Yeah.
But I think you should have
would
as much clout on
appreciate
that committee, at least as
Okay.
everyone else
Okay.
on that committee, if that makes sense to kind of word it that way.
And
yeah.
I think that's consistent with how it was communicated
Okay,
before we voted, so.
okay. Okay, so if that's the case, I'll then, tomorrow, I'll shoot the request out to ask for members/representatives from these groups, and hopefully we'll again come back in 4 weeks and appoint the
Do you
committee.
think that the 29th is a reasonable date with the holidays and some of these folks not, or do you want to shoot for that, and if we don't get it, we'll just extend?
I think all those committees are meeting by then, but if not, we can push it out. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
but let's try. Problem is, if you don't have a deadline, and if it's too far out, people put it aside.
Yeah.
So let's try.
Okay, thank
All right,
you.
I'll try that. Okay, thanks.
Are there any other committees that anybody thinks should be on here?
well, I don't think we want to, like Paul said, you don't want to make it overwhelming. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we could add a bunch, but I don't think we should.
And I think, Aaron, the idea was that once the committee goes through the process of selecting the outside consultant and facilitator, there would be opportunities throughout that process and as part of the development process for other committees, other
to come
residents
in and lead.
to weigh in,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
fine.
And then the next one is the Coolest Farm Task Force. We will be closing by the end of this month on Coolest Farm. I've checked with council today. We don't have a firm date, but the purchase sale agreement talks about the closing by the end of this month, and they're finishing up the title examination, and we don't foresee any reason why that won't happen by the end of the month. And so again, I thought it would be helpful to form a task force, and this was similar to what we did with Warren Pole property, but that was more during COVID, but this would wouldn't have the constraints of COVID. And so my thought, again, of representatives on this committee would be Conservation Commission, Agricultural Commission, Chelmsford Open Space Stewards, Neighborhood Resident, Chelmsford Resident, and the second Chelmsford resident could be a neighborhood resident, but needn't be. And then again, if in the event one of those above listed commissions or groups decides not to nominate a member, because I have not reached out to any, other than I spoke to Carl Bischoff at the Warren Poll thing, and he said, "Oh yeah, Conservation Commission's gonna send somebody." But again, if any of these other groups decline, because this is sort of a task force. It's not a permanent standing committee. It's
They're going to do work.
do their work, but also when they complete their work, just like the Warren Poll one, it goes away. And so the idea would be form this committee. The town manager and public works director would serve as the primary staff people for the committee, but obviously others would help. I've already had discussions with David Kuntz at the suggestion of Carl Bischoff to have the wetlands and the property flagged, so that way when the planning and the task force meets, they can then figure out, well, what are the parameters on what you can do on the sites, because we know on the Pine Hill Road parcels that there's wetlands, on both properties, and if we can get that before the weather loses the snow cover, then we can then be able to plan and show, okay, it's this many acres, but it's this much usable acres because of setbacks and so forth. So anyway, the thought would be, same thing would be to reach out and, again, if possible, by 4 weeks from tonight, to appoint that task force. Beginning of December, we'll have closed on the property, again, get the committee together, and then hopefully as we go into the new year, the committee can be meeting, and then hopefully within a couple of months, have a plan for consideration on how to go about the property. And what's unique here is it is multiple parcels, but it's really two main parcels, the two Pine Hill Road parcels. And I think that the uses may be interrelated, or they may be distinct for the two sides of the roadway. And I can tell you that it'd just be helpful because there have been a lot of suggestions and thoughts in terms of what could go there, and I think it'd be helpful to have a task force sort of air those, have public meetings, hear from the community, get feedback, and then obviously come back and come up with a report, and then obviously present it here ultimately at the select board meeting, and if it needs town meeting action, we go to town meeting, perhaps as soon as April.
So on this one, I mean, I understand that the neighborhood resident might also be a Chelmsford resident, but I've had, at least two people reach out to me that would be interested. So, I mean, I wonder, depending on the feedback you get, maybe making it a 7-person committee with more Chelmsford residents.
Sure. That's why, again, I put the ball in play. If you want,
I mean,
we can do that.
We see what kind of response.
You see what kind of response. If we come back, I mean, we've done that in the past with other committees where we sort of expanded them based on interest, whether it was the diversity committee or the energy committees and so forth. But if you want, we can start out that way and put 2 neighborhood residents or 4, whatever you think.
I'm thinking more the Chelmsford residents than the neighborhood residents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard to define what the neighborhood was out there.
Yeah.
But sure. Yeah. So do you want to do that now and basically, or just want to see what comes in and see what?
Yeah, I think we could do that. I mean, obviously, not with the expectation it will take everybody that applies, because if we have 6 people that apply, then that wouldn't work, obviously. But if we get 2 or 3, then maybe.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
anyway, that's just my thought on that. Anybody else have any comments?
I agree with that, Pat.
Maybe more residents. Okay. Yeah, I just don't know. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what comes back, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the other commissions are going to, are going to. We'll see what comes back. Let's do it that way. I just wanted to be inclusive, and we'll see what we get. Okay.
Okay, very
Great.
good.
Thank you. I'll promote that out tomorrow as well.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next up is town manager reports.
Yeah, just a brief one this evening. The Maya Grant Awards, we did receive, since our last meeting, Maya Grant Rewards of about, trying sure was it, over $10,000, and it's for safety components having to do with trench safety, work zone safety, and boiler room upgrades. So I just wanted to, sorry, trying to do too many things at once. Just wanted to note that we did receive grant funding for these initiatives. So we'll probably be back to you in the springtime as these things become effective.
Okay, next is appointments. We have, the Select Board has one appointment to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Anybody have any comments, questions, feedback about this person?
I'll make a motion that the Select Board appoint Taylor Donaldson Girani to a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2026 for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Whoop, did you want discussion?
Question, where it's the Select Board appointment, I don't have a problem with it, but does anybody know, anybody in the Select Board has spoken to this person, or did we get applications, or?
This is the only application that we got. Remember, we had delayed this for a couple of weeks because the vacancy came up quickly, and they did have 2 applications on file, and we're going to present both of those, but one of those persons withdrew their application, so we only had the one left. And that's all we had. I mean,
I had I looked her up on LinkedIn, and I had a written exchange with her over LinkedIn.
All right.
So
I was just curious.
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you. All right.
Okay. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then, Paul, you have an appointment.
Yeah, for the Commission on Disabilities, Francis Gilroy would be for a term ending on June 30th, 2026. Again, obviously, he's very familiar.
Yeah, he was on the committee.
On the committee previously.
I recognize the name.
And so
yeah.
now his work schedule has changed, so they're able to come back.
I'll make a motion to approve the town manager's appointment of Francis Gilroy to the Commission on Disabilities for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2026.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right. We're all the way down to liaison reports. George, you have anything?
I just want to mention the passing of George Ripson and his wife. 2 great people.
Wait. George didn't die.
His wife died.
His wife passed.
His wife passed. Oh, he's just in the hospital?
No, he was
He was
there
there.
yesterday at the wake.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, because I had read,
He
no, I
probably
got
is,
a call
too.
that he did, and honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And his funeral was supposed to be today or something.
No, his wife's funeral was today.
Wife was-
Yeah, Betty.
Maybe it was backwards or something, I don't know.
Okay.
Her obituary was long enough for 2
For
people.
both.
Well, I mean, that's what I got a call it in.
Yeah,
Didn't get
that's
the
all right.
newspaper, and I got a call, and it was from somebody who who knew them, so.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, Betty was she used to sit with me when I first started 20 years ago or whatever on the town meetings. So we used to sit at the same table. I'm the only one left at that table now, I guess.
yeah. That was a nice write-up in the Globe and in the Whole Sun. I mean, they
Okay.
really put it out there.
Well, you know, I'll have to apologize to George.
Jeez, I guess.
Probably take my stripes off.
Okay. Aaron, anything? Okay. Virginia?
Just a couple. The Capital Planning Committee is going to begin meeting on Thursday, November 16th for the next fiscal year. From the Conservation Commission, the new Freeman Lake Diagnostic and Management Assessment has just kicked off, and they are planning a public input session for the assessment on Tuesday, December 5th at 7 p.m. The location is TBD because their initial plan had a conflict, so keep an eye out for where that will be, or maybe we'll announce it next time as well. And then also from the Conservation Commission, they had the grand opening of the Warren Pole property on Friday, and it was well attended, and they also want to thank the town folks and Pat for participating. From the planning board, Relative to the MBTA zoning, the planning board has had several public input sessions and got inputs from boards, committees, and commissions. And they are now in the process of getting approval from the state for the proposed areas that would meet the statutory requirements for MBTA zoning. And assuming that state approval is received over the next few months, the zoning recommendations would proceed then to April town meeting for local approval. They'll be working with NIMCOG this month to get the final paperwork into the state, and the two areas that they are recommending for MBTA zoning are the former UMass West site on Princeton Road, where town meeting had already approved zoning to accommodate the Trammell Crow multifamily and senior housing development plans, and then also a section along Littleton Road between Pine Hill Road and the Lime Quarry, where some multifamily housing currently exists. So if you have any other further questions, you can contact a member of the planning board or Evan Belansky at the Community Development Office.
Okay, well, George took one of mine, the condolences to the family of Betty Ripsum. She was also very well known at the Garrison House. If you ever spent any time there, I guarantee you ran into Betty Ripsum there. And then Virginia took my Warren Pole dedication. It was a very good ceremony. It was a nice day for it, and yeah, it was a good crowd there. And lastly, I have last week there was a ribbon cutting at the 47 Market, which is the convenience store just down the street from here at where Feeney the Florist used to be. Very nice family that runs that convenience store, and very responsive. If you don't find something in the store, they will order it for you. So they're very responsive. So that's all I have for that. So I will now entertain a motion for
Okay.
executive session.
I will move that we adjourn to executive session, not to return to open session, for the purposes of reviewing the executive session minutes of October 6, 2023, reviewing the executive session minutes of October 23rd, 2023, to review the previously held executive session minutes for potential release of January 9th, 2023, Segment 2, January 23rd, 2023, Segments 2 and 3B, April 27th, 2022, Segment 1, May 15th, 2023, Segments 1 and 2, October 11th, 2022, Segment 3, November 7th, 2022, Segments 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, November 21st, 2022, Segments 1, 2, 3, and 4, and December 5th, 2022, Segments 1 and 2. And to also review the previously held executive session minutes for potential release of January 23rd, 2023, Segment 1C, February 27th, 2023, Segments 3 and 4, May 1st, 2023, Segment 2, May 9th, 2022, Segment 4, and May 23rd, 2022, Segment 1.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. George?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. That's 4-0. We are adjourned.
Can we just do that here?
I think so.